What's he doing?
How are you, Barbara?
Hi, how are you, Julie? Thank you for helping.
Oh, you're welcome.
So is it the same I would do if I'm writing a recommendation, that I would copy the entire thing
Yeah,
and then paste it into that template that you
you
sent
should be
out?
able to do that, yes.
Yeah, for some reason it wasn't working well, but maybe that's just because of okay, I'll try that again. And what about the PowerPoint? I sent that to you. We wanted to include that, the superintendent's PowerPoint.
Oh, okay, was that attached to the email? I didn't see
I
it.
sent you another email like 5 minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
And also there's a revised copy of the minutes.
Yep,
John picked
I
up
got the
some,
revised minutes.
and I forgot to add the PowerPoint, so I just sent that.
Okay, that's
Thank you.
fine. Yep.
I'll fiddle with it.
Don't worry about it because I can put it right into the template after it's approved.
That would be excellent.
Yeah, I'll just put it right in the template and then I can send it off to the clerk with the PowerPoint.
Thank you. I'll figure out how to do it. Hopefully.
It took me a little while.
Well, I'm so
Yeah.
used to the ones I have, this standard Wellesley College letterhead
Right.
template. And so recommendations,
Right.
and then I have to fiddle with it to make sure my signature is in the right place. I have that I can do.
Yeah, it took me a while.
Good, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I had to figure out, I'm not a tech person. I just, this year has really been an eye opener for me and forced me into a lot more tech than I'm comfortable with, but I've made it work.
Good for you. Good for you.
The whole Zoom thing.
I used the first couple of Zooms, I was totally freaked, and now fine.
Oh yeah, it's like secondhand, but when I had to do my first presentation on a Zoom, that was different.
Yep. So Zoom, Skypes, and Google Hangouts, I can do all of those now.
Oh, you're advanced. Hi, Bill.
Hello there.
How are you?
It's been a wonderfully interesting day.
Oh, uh-oh.
That doesn't sound good.
Plumbers.
Oh, I'm awful sorry. I hope it wasn't a busted pipe.
Plumbers.
Okay, enough said.
Did your electricity go off? We got a message saying that parts of the town didn't have electricity.
From 12:30 till 10:30.
You didn't?
From 12:30 till 10:30?
From, yes, 12 a.m., 12:30 a.m.
Wow.
to 10:36 a.m.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's a lot.
With 50-mile-an-hour winds, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had those too, obviously.
Yeah.
Is that what some power lines went down?
God only knows.
Oh, so you don't know what caused it.
Maybe he does.
Maybe he knows what caused it. The power outage.
Hello. Oh, Tony. Tony knows everything about power.
Oh boy, what happened?
No, we just were wondering what the cause was.
Don't go there.
What was amazing was my twin brother Leo was actually assigned. He was on the crew that was assigned to Nahant to fix
Oh my
it.
gosh.
So, like typically in that scenario, we're going through like channels upward that come back down and then back to us. And it was great. I was just texting him, it was like on a family group chat.
Yo, Leo.
Start the meeting so we can get it over with.
So it got done. They did a good job. They got it done pretty quickly. It was some center phase line got disconnected from wind right at the substation, and then so.
Bill doesn't care about it.
It was howling all night long. And what I've noticed is that there's been a lot more tree work done. People, taking off limbs that they're afraid. We took a beautiful old tree down. I mean, people are very worried and are now paying to have their trees removed or giant parts of them removed because the winds have become much more powerful. And-
Grid is scheduled to do trimming around power lines in Little Nahant this year and then Big Nahant at the end of this year and next year.
Good. Hi, Jeff.
When does it occur?
Oh, we lost Jeff.
Well, there's a doggy, cute dog. Is that a corgi-ish?
It's not even an ish, it's a corgi.
It's a corgi. What's his name? Her name?
This is Madeline. And hang on.
We're gonna see the other corgi.
Da-da-da. That is Timmy.
But they're twins or they're
Well, they're-
siblings?
They're cousins, actually.
They're cousins.
Yes.
Oh, cute. How old are they?
They're about a year and a half.
I was gonna say they still look pretty young.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like teenagers.
Corgis are rather willful, aren't they? I've heard.
Yeah, they do have, yeah. If you're not firm with them, they will get out of control.
They're permanent teenagers if you don't know what to do.
Right, yeah. But this is our fourth administration of corgis, so.
You're like the royal family.
Yeah, I keep writing and she never writes back.
Oh. Have you seen Canine Intervention?
What?
Oh, it's awesome. I don't even have a dog. It's on Netflix. It's called Canine Intervention. It's the new Canine Whisperer, only he's better than the old one. And
Oh.
it's very worth watching. He's got a whole thing. He's got a whole system. It's very good. He takes troubled dogs. And
Wow.
yeah. But not just
Awesome.
troubled dogs. It's very interesting. Different issues each time.
Huh.
Give it a watch.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out. I'm waiting for John to show up here. We do have enough of a quorum to get going, but
And stop talking about dogs.
no, I mean, I'll talk about dogs all night. I don't think that's the purpose of this meeting.
No, let's see. We've got 14 people, so probably not.
Judy, hello, Judy.
Hi, good to see everybody.
Always. I'm pretty, did John send a note that said I'm running late or anything to anyone?
I haven't gotten it.
Well, it's only 3 after, so we'll wait till 5 after.
Just
There he
joined.
is.
Hey
There he
guys,
is.
sorry.
All right, no worries.
Oh,
Great. So the gang's all here? Enough of the gang?
I think, well, definitely enough of the gang. So it is,
Let's
what
get
is
going.
7:03, and there is a quorum of the Finance Committee. So Vanderslice, Tarmy, Beatty, Lewis, who else? Brown.
Fulgrim.
Don Fulgham
Zahora.
and Zahora. Yeah, you and I are always in the alphabetic ghetto. You know,
I know.
Vanderslice, Zahora, it's like, oh God. So we
I
are,
have been at the head of the line most of my life, so I would prefer to be definitely, I think Z sounds good to me.
I had a teacher who would hand out hall passes in alphabetic order, but every other day he would say, and the Bible says the last shall be first and the first shall be last, and he'd do it in reverse alphabetic order. Okay, anyway. John, I think maybe, should we do the citizen petition article first, just so the folks don't.
That's okay with me if it's okay with Tony. Tony, you're gonna be here for the duration? Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, and then we can do the general business. We can approve the minutes and do all that stuff later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so we'll do the citizens petition, and then the normally scheduled thing was town government kind of focusing on pension and benefits, because those are probably the biggest
Yep.
and most variable of items in that, and then general business, and we really need to look at the unassigned articles as well.
Yep.
And get those dealt with.
That makes sense. So following on from our discussion with the DPW last week, we talked a little bit about the issues at the lowlands. And we also talked about Article 37 as it's listed now in the version of the warrant that we have, which was the citizens petition that was kind of, I guess I'll say mothballed last year with the other citizens petition and the other articles that have kind of resurfaced this year. And so we've heard from Tony and we've heard from Zach, and we've had discussions about, stormwater related issues in the context of the DPW and the town's perspective. But the committee felt, Christine, that it made sense to have you come in front of us and that we hear from you and ask you some questions and get kind of the full perspective. So that's why we invited you here, and we're thankful that you were able to attend.
So thank you very, very much for inviting me and having me. I don't know if it's possible to share my screen.
I think Bob can maybe do that. Can you do that, or who can do that?
I did,
No, wait, where are you? If I right click.
excuse me one second. Dave, would you? Thank you.
Tony, you told me how to do this, and
So
I
if you
don't,
go down to the bottom of your page, there's a green button that says share screen. And if you, or you can make me the host. So if you go to participant.
I am trying to make you the host, but I don't think I am the host. I think Tony,
Oh, whoever is the host can make either multiple host or make me the host.
yeah, I think it's Tony.
Yep, hold on a second.
Thank you.
I don't know. It says I have a share screen option, but when I click on Christine's screen, I'm not getting the make host option. So I don't think I am the host. When you click on Christine's screen in the top right corner, the three dots, there's what options do you have available to you?
You know what? I don't think anybody is host.
So I tried to click on the claim host button, but then it asks me to
Well,
enter
maybe
a
let me
host
just try and share
keychain.
what happens.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Christine,
I got-
just try and
Oh,
share.
there you go.
How's that?
There you go.
There you go.
There we go. Okay, so
Well, that was easy.
that was a lot easier than we thought. All right, so I thank you for having me here. I do think it's important to kind of understand the background and history of the petition. And so I'm happy to answer questions, but I was hoping to go through this kind of quickly. This, of course, is the article. The amount of money was a little bit less than what the whole project would cost, but it was thought to address permitting and plans as phase one, and then a future article for phase two. And I think you're all familiar with what Article 37 says. Why support funding for this project? And the reason would be that it provides a permanent solution to a very long-term, a 40-year town-wide public safety issue, and that's the absence of drainage in the lowlands. And so, as I said, there'd be two phases, phase 1 and phase 2. Why is it a town-wide public safety issue? Because when Nahant Road closes, emergency access to the mainland is, cut off. And so for as long as that happens, it affects the health and safety of all Nahant residents, not just residents in the lowlands. In 2018, we had massive flooding and Nahant Road was closed for quite a period of time. Castle Road and Nahant Roads were both closed as well during the storm. Sorry, there we go, whoops. And the longer the road remains closed, the longer we are without access to a medical facility, mutual aid, fire, police service from other communities, or for residents to get out of Lynn to get services. And this picture here is not one of the major hurricanes. This was just one of the storms in either 2011, 2013, somewhere around then. Other safety issues include the town's infrastructure. Critical infrastructure is located in the lowlands, electric, gas, and the sewer system. As long as standing water remains in the lowlands, these critical facilities are at risk, and all Nahant's residents are at risk. So the question begs, why does the lowlands remain in water for so long? Because, 5 days sometimes or longer. And that's because there's no drainage. There's just no drainage in the lowlands. Historically, the springs in Bear Pond fed a natural stream that exited in Lynn Harbor. And these maps, pre-colonial, 1700, show the natural flow of water out to Lynn Harbor. As development happened, we filled in a lot of areas, we built homes, and the natural stream was interrupted. And a 20-inch gravity pipe was placed at the end of 29 Castle Road, and that allowed water to exit out to Lynn Harbor. Parts of the natural stream became culverts and ditches, but that ditch system was originally a stream that went to Lynn Harbor, a very direct route. All of the lowland storm drains, and I believe this is correct, are connected to the system that was to exit at 29 Castle Road. This is a picture of the neighborhood underwater, but the town does have a deeded right to maintain a 20-inch storm drain at 29 Castle Road for the natural flow of water. And this dates back, as far as I can see, to the 1946 land survey. Unfortunately, over the years, several homeowners at 29 Castle blocked the storm drain. Cement was filled into it, 2 seawalls were built. And so the lowlands were left high and dry, literally underwater, not high and dry, literally underwater and without any adequate drainage. And this has been a burden and to the neighborhood, but it's also a public safety issue. This is the 1946 land survey, and if you zoom in, and I will make this available to the committee, you can see the easement at 29 Castle Road for maintaining a 20-inch storm drain pipe. Here's a sample of one of many, many deeds that all have the same language, that the town of Nahant has a right to maintain this for the natural flow of water to Lynn Harbor. We've had a lot of losses. In '78, one of the lowlands residents actually died during the flooding and subsequent house fire that destroyed the home. I don't believe that emergency equipment could get in to actually the house. They kind of had to fight from a little bit farther out. And the lowlands remained in water for several days, 5 days. This is 1991. I was here for this one. The neighborhood again, during the perfect storm, remained in water for 5 days. And this is an article from the Lynn Item in 1991. Selectman Lombard notes that during the blizzard of '78, there was a plan developed for a drainage system to be implemented for Fox Hill Road area. And that, they just never secured funding and no one was really sure what happened, but the plan was never implemented. So the town did ask for a study, and they went to the Army Corps of Engineers. And in 1991, in 1995, the Army Corps did actually present a study back to the town. And what was very interesting is that the town was told that the lowlands issue was really more of a drainage issue than a flooding issue. There's a lot of findings, and I can again make this link available, but they noted the same things I'm noting now. There's only one road in and out of town. There's not adequate drainage in the lowlands, that the storm drain was blocked at 29 Castle Road, that the town had not maintained the ditches. And they also noted that, Nahant sat in water for 5 days in standing water. They did note the infrastructure that's located in the lowlands. And they did note that the most efficient path for water would be to go directly to Lynn Harbor, which is the natural flow. One thing that was also interesting, because I know we've talked about, whether water can go to Bear Pond or not, but it notes that the lowest elevation of the study area is the lowlands. So although the town officials have been aware of this problem for 40 years or more, they have failed to repair the broken drain pipe or provide an adequate permanent solution for drainage to the lowlands. I worked with T. Taylor and also with Dennis Ball in 2018 to come up with the article for $175,000 for the town to start to address this issue. As I became more aware and more active, I've worked with the town. And so this was passed at town meeting. It was an article that the selectmen had supported. And so that was really important. But most of the money, and Tony's been great, and DPW was spent trying to explore the block drain at 29 Castle Road. And it is a double seawall. They ran into some issues, so the town determined it was too costly to continue. The town did purchase 2 portable pumps, which we're very excited about, and they were very great in pumping water quickly, but they're again more of an emergency repair. The lowlands remains without a viable permanent drainage solution. So everyone says, well, what about the ditches? Well, water flows downhill, and the drainage ditches have not provided drainage for the lowlands at all. During the 2018 storm, water actually flowed from the golf course to the lowlands. We had so many golf balls in our neighborhood. The DPW, and they've been great, and Tony's been great, they went in and they cleared this area out so that, we can get the emergency pumps in and pump more easily. But here's the thing, the water has nowhere to go. So that area that was made larger is now, I took these photos like 2 days ago, is just filled to the brim with water, and it goes nowhere. It just sits in the ditches. If you go beyond that area, the rest of the ditches are clogged and filled, and actually much more shallow than our end of town. And if you walk far enough and deep enough in, you will see that there's very little water at the top end of the ditch system. So the reason the citizens petition is that, we are still without a viable permanent drainage solution. Our homes, it's a public safety issue about Nahant Road, but our homes remain in standing water for 5 days, and even minor events can cause flooding. And water remains in the storm drain system, which goes nowhere. So standing water below the streets cause more cost for the town because we have repeated gas line breaks and water main breaks in this neighborhood because it thaws and freezes. So that's another cost. Although this is a town-wide problem, the lowlands residents have had to shoulder the burden for 40 years without drainage. And there are some very specific things that are relative to just the lowlands residents, which is, loss of life. We've had repeated losses and damages to our properties, foundations, landscaping, vehicles. We've had health issues related to standing water, stress and anxiety about storms coming. We've had chronic broken gas lines, water pipes. We've had lost time in wages and work because we've had to take time to prepare for storms and then days after to recover from them. We've had increased insurance premiums for our homeowners insurance and our flood insurance. And actually, many of us have not been able to even have competitive home insurance because we've been rejected because of the water situation. We've had cost of litigation, loss of our property value, and that's a huge one for all of us. Many of us invested into beautiful homes, and our homes have lost value because this is an ongoing problem, and the cost of cleanup. So how will this help? I know the town has met with us recently as a neighborhood and talked about, having some emergency solutions with the pump. However, we're looking for a permanent solution for drainage, an ongoing, not just emergencies drainage. We're looking for a direct route to Lynn Harbor so that water can efficiently and easily move out of the lowlands. And we would be a proactive, but a proactive approach, not a recovery approach or a reactive approach. And this will help protect the lives and property of Nahant residents. Why citizens petition? I wish it didn't have to be. I think it's a good question for the town. This has been a problem for 40 years. I did work with the town on the last article. I'm happy to work with them again. Last year, I was told that an article would be put in and one wasn't. We've had our articles taken off the table. We hope that the town will put in something not just for an emergency measure, but for a permanent drainage solution for the neighborhood. We believe in science because this issue is going to become more frequent and more severe, and we feel it's time to act. I want you to remember that the lowlands is not just an area with drainage issues. It's a beautiful neighborhood with families and children. There are many, many beautiful homes here. We also have Short Beach, the Veterans Park, the Life Saving Station, the Heritage Trail, and Black Rock and Dorothy beaches, and the playing fields. This is a part of town that many, many, many people in town enjoy and use, and we have invested in, and we would hope that the town would invest in protecting it. I thank you for your time, your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll stop sharing now.
Thank you, Christine.
Okay.
All right, well, I'll fill the silence. I think when we discussed this at length in our last meeting, and I'm probably going to put words in the mouth of the committee, but I think the committee in general recognizes that there is an issue down at the lowlands and that something needs to be done. There are some concerns about the article as it exists right now. And I put them into three categories. Category number one, it's calling for $100,000, but it doesn't identify a source for those funds. And typically when someone comes to town meeting saying, I would like to spend some money that is not part of the omnibus budget or part of the selectmen recommended put forth articles, the rule is you have to identify a funding source for whatever it is you're proposing to spend. So that's issue number one, is the funding source. Issue number two is the $100,000. Where does it come from? What's the support for $100,000? Do we have an estimate from an engineering firm? Have we talked to Zach? How do we know it's $100,000 for the work that's being proposed? That's issue two. And issue three is we're concerned that it is too restrictive the way the article is written now. It's very specific, saying it's a 30-inch pipe and so forth and so on. And we're wondering whether we might be better served by having a less restrictive article that would open up more possibilities for addressing the problem down there. And I'm going to kind of tack on a fourth one, which is just my personal one from your comments just tonight. You spent some time talking about the 20-inch drain going through 29 Castle Road. That's not even mentioned in this article as it exists now. So I'm a little confused.
Mm-hmm.
If the ultimate solution is to reopen 29 Castle Road, why do we have this article proposing something else entirely? So there's one,
That's
two,
a-
three, four
good-
things there, and just
Okay.
sense of the committee right now. Did I do a reasonable job paraphrasing that?
Yes, thank you. Great.
I think those are great questions. Let me start with number 4. We would be more than happy just to open up what exists from our discussions. And Tony, you've been involved in some of those. We were told that the town had another plan to have a drain go out Black Rock Beach, under Castle Road, and go out Black Rock Beach. In discussions, we were told that was a very expensive plan. So this was an attempt to work at breaking that up into permitting and plans for that plan. I think there were very preliminary plans that I was shown for that big pipe going out Castle Road through Dog Beach, and that's town property. The neighbors, I think, would be happy to have any drainage whatsoever. So 20 inches out 29A on the property at 29 Castle, that, we could change the language and be happy to have that. What we need is some kind of solution that allows water to leave the neighborhood. And so I'd be happy to work with whoever to change the language so that it would be less restrictive if the town does not. I mean, Tony was the one who had shared that he would like to do a different approach, but if we are going down a different direction, I'm happy to work with that. I'll work with you on whatever way we can get something done, but it's, I think the point is that we just would like to get something done.
Tony, if I'm right.
Okay, that answers
changing
question. I'm sorry.
language would necessitate getting another 100 signatures.
Sorry, I heard my name at the beginning. What was the question again?
If we were to change, if Christine wanted to change the wording of the article, would that require a whole another set of 100 signatures?
So I believe the citizens petition only requires 10 signatures. I think we had a few extra, so it's not 100. I'm,
100.
I can't speak for the people who signed, but I'm sure we could do that
I
if that was required. Mhm. I'm sorry.
I think procedurally, it's especially difficult this year because these are articles that are presented as citizen petitions from the previous year that were rolled over because of COVID. So the procedure and the timelines and the requirements and all that, it gets a little tricky and fuzzy because of that. So the best option would be to leave that article written as is, and then, any changes to it, the Board of Selectmen can put on. So if we want to try to capture it ahead of town meeting so that it's included in your book, it's something that the Board of Selectmen have the power to do as a separate article, or it's something that you do on town meeting floor.
And, I think when I spoke with Diane Dunphy, about resubmitting the article, I had said that I'd be happy to withdraw my article if the town had some kind of an article that was agreeable in place of that. I'm happy to work with the town on that. The neighbors have been very happy to work with the selectmen and Tony and the DPW, but we would like some kind, it's been 40 years. We have to find the funding somewhere. This has to be an area that's addressed. We can't just keep not addressing something that's been a problem for 40 years. How do we find money?
I admit it's a little bit unfair to ask you for the funding source,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
it is truly an issue that we can't spend $100,000 if we don't know where it's coming from.
Correct. I think that the article reads that, you would appropriate, the town would appropriate, or from borrowing. If you read the article,
Mhm.
I think it's in there.
I think it's in there.
Mhm. So is that enough, or what more do you want for that?
It doesn't specify the way that it's currently written, Christine. It just says $100,000. It doesn't say appropriate it from where or
Well,
it
the
doesn't.
county, the very last, read the very, very last phrase in the article.
Mhm.
Why don't you read it to us, Bob?
And to determine whether this appropriation shall be raised by borrowing or otherwise, or to take any other action relative thereto.
Oh, okay. So that would cover if you wanted to borrow for it.
Right. I think it's exactly the same language that was used for the 2018 $175,000 article that was written with the selectmen. I worked with G. Taylor, as I said, and Dennis Ball. I think we used the same exact language, and that was presented at town hall and was voted in favor. So like, I would love to see the selectmen come forward with something. We're hopeful that they will, but we had to make sure that we had something to cover this because we need to move forward to fix this problem.
All right, so then your plan is if the selectmen come forward with something, then you will withdraw this.
If it's acceptable, we will probably move to withdraw the article at town meeting. Do you usually make a recommendation on citizens petitions through the FinCom, or is that something just because of the nature of this article?
We're in the process of kind of
Figuring that out.
working our way through that. You know, there's some thought that there's a historical or ingrained precedent that the FinCom does not offer recommendations on citizens petitions,
Mm-hmm.
but not everybody is absolutely sure that that's the case, or maybe necessarily that for some issues that's maybe not the best course of action. So we're kind of working our way through that. I personally wouldn't confidently say that it's one or the other. We're still kind of parsing that.
Right.
But I think the overall perspective of the FinCom, you know, one person can't give the whole perspective, and Bob kind of recapped, I think, our concerns, our collective concerns in a reasonable way. But I think, you know, from our perspective, we're trying to balance, you know, an informed, impassioned citizen who recognizes something that needs to be done, and at the same time trying to be respectful and accommodating to the governmental infrastructure or structure that exists to kind of hopefully fulfill the citizens' needs. And, you know, obviously, you know, there's been, you know, many years have passed and there's been tensions and different perspectives, but it seemed in our conversation with Zach and Tony that the town, if we're going to classify one faction as the town and one faction as the citizens, the town is kind of committed to addressing this concern. You know, the FinCom, I think, sees that, you know, maybe there's a possibility that the way that the town is going to address it isn't exactly the way that you may prefer. And so then we as a collective body have to decide, you know, is, you know, maybe everybody isn't going to be, you know, maybe the town isn't going to be absolutely satisfied, but maybe you aren't either. And maybe some type of compromise that kind of makes everybody as happy as they can be is a place we can move to. But
so I think what's important to note is that, you know, there are two different paths here, and maybe both of them have to happen. I know the town has been working on, you know, setting up some kind of I work to get the pumps to have an emergency response, and that's wonderful. But there is a second issue that is longstanding, and that's the permanent drainage solution that actually the selectmen we've met with as a neighborhood, and they have promised they would help us with. We've been hearing about this, if you go back to the Lynn item, since 1978. And so it's time that something happens. It's time that we stop talking and thinking about plans. It's time that we move forward. And resolve this. And if the town can't come up with the big plan, then let's just open up the pipe that's there. We will take 20 inches of drainage versus no inches of drainage. If we put a permanent pump where the 20-inch drain is right now, where we have a legitimate easement, we'd be happy with that. But we cannot continue to ignore the fact that this neighborhood has been without drainage for 40 years, that the town is at risk for all kinds of things happening when the road is closed. Public safety hazards. We can't just continue to ignore that. This is an important issue. And as I said, this neighborhood especially has been burdened for 40 years. I've lived here for 32 or 33 of them.
Where, two-part question, where did $100,000 come from? I mean, what's driving that particular number? And then the follow-on question to that is, this is just plans and permitting. You have a sense for what the entire project that you're envisioning would cost?
So in my discussions with the town for the big plan with the 36-inch pipe that was going out that way, they had mentioned $500,000. Originally, I was going to split that down the middle, but I know the town has been financially strapped. So we thought, let's just start with plans and permitting, which can take time and money, and then move forward with phase 2. Like I said, I think the neighbors would be happy just opening up the existing pipe that is blocked. We just would like some drainage in this neighborhood. And so that could be done probably for 100,000 or maybe, I don't know, maybe 200,000. I'm willing to work, and so are the neighbors. And we have been working for years on trying to get something to happen here. It's just, we're not willing to just continue to wait.
So one thought that I have is, and this isn't the meaning to parse it, but the kind of questions that I would ask and I would want to better understand is, from these legacy Army Corps of Engineering studies or any kind of objective analysis of the flooding situation in lowlands, I would want to know if the solutions that we're proposing are actually going to mitigate the damage that we're seeking to keep from happening, So that's, I would want to know that if we're going to spend, $100,000 in permitting and studying, and then another $400,000 in construction, that this pipe, whether it's 36 inches or 20 inches, is really going to do what we would want it to do. Is this the best way to spend our money to get at a problem that maybe even having a 60-inch drain and a storm like we had in 2018 wouldn't be enough to prevent the flooding? So
I want to be, just not to interrupt, but I want to be clear. We're not talking about flooding. Flooding may happen. We're talking about drainage. When the water comes into the neighborhood, it stays in the neighborhood. It's like a bowl. And because there's no exit, we sit for days. If there was a drain that can drain when the tide goes out, a gravity drain takes that water out between tides, we would not be sitting in water. The reason we sit in water for 5 days, and the reason that we need to have the fire department or 10-inch pumps pumping us out, is there's nowhere for the water to go. Our homes are damaged, our properties are damaged, our health is at risk because we are sitting in water for 5 days. The town is closed off. Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I support this wholeheartedly. I grew up in that neighborhood. I am very open about, this issue along with the drainage issues in other areas of town. I just want to make sure that you're, I don't want it to sound like that area of town is sitting in water for 5 days on a consistent basis. And that's how you kind of made it sound there.
I believe that the road is filled with water on a consistent basis. Our pipes freeze and break because they're sitting in water. And when they go to repair them, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because mine broke out in front of my home again this year, the gas pipe and the water pipe the week before, they need to bring in pumps to pump out the street. There's so much water because nothing is draining. And before, when we had actual drainage, those things weren't happening. So I think that, you know, there's standing water. It's sitting in the ditch right now because there's nowhere for it to go. It will not go to the golf course because the golf course is uphill. We're the lowlands. We are not the highlands. That's why the water comes here. So it's you know, pretty elemental, and it was a natural stream. It went to Lynn Harbor. It was blocked, and it's remained blocked. And now we're sitting in a bowl of water. It just needs to be opened up.
I'm reading a chat from a member of the Planning Commission on the chat thing here. Is that a solution or a possible solution? Or is that just, I don't know enough about these procedures.
I don't want to speak for the
Please,
CPC
right
or
now.
or the member of the planning board, but I can say that last year we, you know, the town submitted a similar article to the CPC, and it was deemed uneligible for CPC funds because it wasn't, while it does provide a benefit to open space and recreation, it didn't meet the criteria of funding. So I hope it's different this year. I hope maybe they'll take a look at it differently, but that was the result we got.
So then going that route would just complicate it, maybe?
Mr. Lewis, would you like for me to comment on that? Are you asking me a question or?
Well,
I
can
don't
I
know
ask can I ask us just a functional question of the finance committee? This is really was to discuss the citizen position, not to find a solution to the drainage problem at the lowlands. So I appreciate all this, and if you know, Bob, if you and John think that we need to continue on the conversation, but I want to be mindful of the rest of our business and where we
Yeah.
need to go.
Thank you, Judy. I was about to jump in and say, it seems to me that the path forward here, the first step is to determine whether the selectmen want to take proactive action on this. And I don't know, I'm not sure Tony knows the answer to that question. So it may be that either Tony has to go to the selectmen and ask that, or perhaps either John or I should approach the selectmen. But let's find out whether they are willing to take some sort of proactive action. It seems the most likely thing they would do, or most effective thing they would do, would be submit their own article to address this. And then if that's acceptable, Christine could, what's the verb, remove,
Withdraw.
withdraw your
Table.
article.
Mhm.
So I
Tony?
know that the selectmen are supportive of investing a significant amount of money to the tune of about $100,000 into this overall issue. And they were supportive of including, you know, if Christine's article wasn't going to be included, they were going to put their own in. In light of the concerns or questions that the FinCom have raised, and I believe we have some as well, you know, as far as the specificity of the language included in the article. But also, you know, we may be able to dig a little bit deeper as far as a funding source. I've already approached the selectmen in potentially including an article so that the FinCom can include it in the book and potentially include a recommendation on it ahead of town meeting. And then it's just a matter of, I mean, I think that the Board of Selectmen and myself and Zach and, you know, the way that we look at this issue in the lowlands and the best way to approach a solution is it's all beneficial to the neighborhood. It's just kind of taking different roads there compared to the way Christine wants to approach it. So, you know, we could leave the article, the language of the article vague enough where it allows us to continue to discuss how to approach that if it were to be approved before spending. Or it's a matter of, working out the details of that language with Christine before including it in the warrant and sending it to the FinCom.
All right.
I
Is it, go ahead.
I
Go
would
ahead,
be
Christine.
happy to work with you on that. I think one of the downsides of the article that was written in 2018, in order to gain all the support, we added, other things into it like Bear Pond and the ditches. And really the intent of the 2018 article was to find a permanent solution to the drainage problem. So I think the reason we do need to be somewhat specific about the permanent solution is that when it is too vague, we don't ever get the intended result. For the $175,000, we had some exploration and we got 2 pumps. We got maybe some ditch work, but we didn't feel that for all the work we put together to push that forward, we got a solution.
So, and I don't want to belabor it, on here between me and
Correct.
Christine.
Right.
The hurdle, just so you guys understand that why it's just not simple, why it's not easy. Like, okay, let's just do it. Christine's recommending is, existing outfall pipes are in a way grandfathered. Permitting and guidance from the EPA and from DEP make it borderline impossible for new permanent outfalls into the ocean unless you have, extremely well filtered think about it. You have fluids coming from the street, picking up oils and debris, and then outfalling onto the ocean without it filtering it first. It gets into a permitting nightmare. So that's why it's not as simple as just throwing $100,000 at it.
Mhm.
But we do understand that there's value to attempting to restore the currently blocked but existing outfall pipe. There's also value in creating another place for us to emergency access the area for emergency dewatering. And then obviously we have an existing drainage system with the ditch network that goes towards Bear Pond that currently doesn't flow as well as it should. So there's certainly value in improving the efficiency of that existing system as well. So it's just, you have to kind of, the issue is not a simple, what's it going to take to fix all these problems? There's many different elements involved in it.
All right, but so just to try to put an action onto this, is it reasonable to say, let's give ourselves 3 weeks? And if at the end of 3 weeks, there's not a solution that's acceptable, or meaning an article proposed by the selectmen that's acceptable to the citizens, then this citizens petition article stands, and we deal with it on town hall floor. But hopefully within 3 weeks, we ought to be able to hammer out some language, that's not navel gazing language, about what's an action plan and what's the right amount of money to get that action plan going for the lowlands. Does that sound reasonable, Christine, Tony?
I think it sounds reasonable. And, when thinking about what Tony's saying, if we can use what we have existing and it's looked at as a repair and it's grandfathered in, we'd be happy with that. We need something. And so I'm happy to, how to find me, Tony. That sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good.
I thank you very much for your time and your patience. I know it's a lot of information and you have a lot of other business to tend to, but I think the neighborhood and citizens of Nahant appreciate that too.
All right, so what we'll do is for our meeting 3 weeks from now, let's just put a placeholder agenda item in for revisit lowlands drainage articles or something like that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Christine.
I will send a copy of the presentation to all of you.
Thank
good.
you.
All right.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye now.
Okay. What are we? We're on to town government, right?
I guess you guys don't need me to answer that. Okay. I was waiting to answer Mr. Lewis, but if you guys have moved on
Oh.
to the next agenda item, that's fine.
I'm sorry, I lost sight of the questions. I didn't mean to.
Oh, no, Mr. Lewis had mentioned something about my chat and I've been waiting patiently to comment.
We don't want to discourage you though.
Okay. I'm on the planning board. My name is Shannon Bianchi. Tonight, we voted to advance a $60,000 ask to the CPC for this very reason. We've been on this issue of flooding of the lowlands and the golf course area for quite some time, about 4 or 5 years now. And we're moving forward with that proposal to the CPC for $60,000. We're going to initiate a very detailed topographic survey, acre by acre of 27 acres. So we'll get an elevation study done, wetlands delineation done. We'll know what we're working with. We'll know everything in great detail. Past that, we're going to use that topographic survey, hopefully with the consultant, to do a feasibility study, which we will wrap up and send to the Board of Selectmen as a proposal.
A feasibility study of what?
Oh, I'm sorry, a feasibility study for a complete ecological restoration of the entire system from Doggy Beach all the way to Bear Pond. There's 3 different avenues that we're going to go with that with the consultant. Option 1 would be an in-house option, similar to what Christine was talking about, working with the town, working with the DPW, a lot of volunteer groups doing a lot of the manual labor. The second option that the consultant's going to put together for us is a hybrid option where the state and Nahant both collaborate and do a lot of the state would do a lot of the heavy lifting with grant replacements. There's free money all over the place when you start talking about ecological restoration. They could give us grants for all of these culverts that she's discussing, that she's talking about. Those go into the ecosystem that we would be restoring. So the hybrid model would be Nahant working with the state. The third option that we want to have the consultant provide us is the Army Corps of Engineers option, which it's basically an outsourcing of all of the entire project to the Army Corps, where they operate and fix up the entire thing, put new culverts in, clean up all the ditches and fix everything up for us and walk away, and it'd be a beautiful situation after that. So we're really in support of that. We talked tonight about that in detail, about how we're very in support of what Christine is doing with this. And I just wanted to share that with you and Tony, whatever language you guys might be able to work around with her. Just know that we are starting this process for a long-term solution. We're in it to win it, and we're going to be here for quite some time until this project gets done. I just wanted to share that with you. Of course, whatever money that, if she wants to go for, the more money, the better. We initially started with 60 because it's $1,000 an acre for a topographic survey. We have about 27 acres that needs to be done. The other 25 would be the feasibility study and $5,000 in administrative costs. So that taps into some CPC funds, and I just wanted to share that with you guys. This is an in tandem thing. So a lot of the language that Christine is saying, we say too, but just in different ways. But it's all the same project, and just wanted you to be aware of that.
Okay, so I'm thinking out loud, which is always dangerous.
That's okay.
It seems like we have at least 3 different groups of people or town organizations that are all sort of circling around and trying to attack this same problem. At
Stormwater management, you mean?
Yes, yeah, especially at the lowlands, and at least two of them now are coming forward with funding requests.
Yes.
And I don't know how these three efforts coordinate, if at all. And would we not be better with a more united front of one town organization that's trying to drive this to a conclusion, rather than three that are sort of moving along in rough parallel to each other?
I can't speak for the rest of the board, but my personal feeling is that, yes, it would be much better if we had one body in town that managed this process. Usually towns and cities have what's called a parks commission. That those duties, because of the way that our town government is set up, falls to the Board of Selectmen. The Parks Commission can be designated to the Planning Board under statute by the Board of Selectmen or by vote of town. And the Planning Board, we're very willing to take this on as a project from start to finish and incorporate, all of these different avenues. What we feel is that a long range solution is what we need, but we also need to take it step by step, very detail oriented, and do it the right way the first time. And that's going to call for a unified front. So just on a personal level, and I'll chime out so that you guys can get on with the rest of your night, but I encourage any of you all that talk to Christine or these other groups, tell them to come and talk to us, and let's all put our heads together. From the planning board perspective, Board of Selectmen have a lot to do. The planning board, not so much. So we love this idea and we love taking on the challenge.
Let's just, if we can just take a step back, and Shannon, why don't you and I connect tomorrow or this week?
Yeah, I've got PT all day tomorrow. Yeah, that's fine.
Because the town, I came on in August and we started spending money in August of 18. And over the last 2 years, we've done a lot of the efforts that you just described. And we haven't heard from the planning board looking into what has already been accomplished. And we would love to join forces, but we don't want to be stepped over. It's important that the DPW superintendent and our town engineer is heavily integrated, and myself, because, obviously with this project comes funding issues, and it also comes with flooding issues, not just in the lowlands, but throughout town. So we have to think of it on a big picture. Please don't get in front of us, but please join us. And maybe we need to spend some time, going over what we've already accomplished before, duplicating efforts.
Sounds great to me.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
All right,
thank
good night,
you.
guys.
How do I get to do one of those thumbs up like DeWitt usually does?
Do I understand that this is them making sure something happens? So do I understand that, oh, you just got off the air, Tony, that you and Jim are gonna set a date to get together soon?
Me and, well,
Shannon?
John,
Oh, what was his,
Shannon.
I didn't have his
Shannon.
name correct, but I mean, is that,
He goes by Shannon. I'm not sure what.
oh, Shannon, okay. So are we agreed that you and Shannon are gonna get together very soon?
Yes.
That's
I
gonna happen.
didn't catch, he said he was, I certainly want to speak with them before they get too far ahead in the planning, in the CPC process.
Right,
As I said, we had filed something similar last year that ultimately was deemed ineligible, but we have this other earmark, I call it an earmark, the citizen petition article that we may be rewriting, working with Christine, that, maybe you pull in some of the same efforts that we haven't accomplished, but the planning board is thinking about. In case it's ineligible at the CPC, we try to fund it through a town meeting warrant article. So yeah, there's a lot of, I guess there's a lot going on that maybe folks aren't aware of, whether that be the planning board or others. So, like I said, I don't want to duplicate efforts. So
Right, but so are you and Shannon going to get in touch?
sounds like it.
Yeah.
Sounds like it. Yeah, that's what I offered to him.
Right, so I think we need to make sure that that happens really quickly, because otherwise all of these different efforts are going to stay separate, which we don't want.
Right.
They'll be disunited. We don't want that.
Right.
So will you report back to us about?
It's not really us, Barbara.
It's
It's
not
not
us,
really.
right.
It's with the finance committee, right? So if there's a financial interest, then they need to come back to us. But
This is
Tony,
his board of selectmen, right?
Well, I'll be reporting back to you anyhow with the potential
With the warrant?
new warrant article. So
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Now town government?
Well, I want John to know that I read both of his papers. My eyes hurt, but I read them.
Okay.
All right, you may be the only one that can survive a quiz then.
Yeah.
Does someone else have the budget that you can throw up on the screen as a screen share? I switched laptops this past week and I'm still not entirely organized. I
I
can
should,
find it in my email, but it'll take me a minute.
yeah, give me a second.
I'm looking too.
So this one? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
That one, that's it.
Yeah, okay.
That's it, without the uses and sources and uses tab.
Is this what we want? Is this sufficient for the discussion?
That'll do. Tony, can you zip us through the budget here?
Which parts do you want? Which parts are you looking to specifically go over?
Well, for me, there are three. COVID related, which I assume is in public health, but it may be buried elsewhere that I don't know about.
No, okay, let's start there. Let me get through, I can get through that fairly quickly. John, yeah, thank you. I was just gonna say, if you zoom in a little, John, it might be a little bit
That a
easier
little
to see.
better?
Yeah. Okay, so public health, the health nurse, public health inspector wages, health expenses, health doctor, health assistant, assistant health inspector, purchase services. Those items were previously found under different categories within the budget. So you could see some in inspectional services, you could see some under the Board of Selectmen. They were spread out amongst the budget. This year, one of our biggest, concerns, our number one priority, has shifted to public health because of the pandemic. So I listed the 2022 department budgets, so column letter F. As I said, these items were not previously in this area, but I wanted you guys to see visually what we used to spend on these items collectively compared to, you know, how it looks now organized in this section of the budget. So the current fiscal year, we were budgeted at $23,688 for all those items. What we are doing this year is budgeting that at $117,500. So that's a $93,800 increase. Now, the way that it works though is this money's appropriated, you know, much of this money, 50,000 for the health nurse, 12,000 for the inspector wages, 25,000 for the health assistant. Those are hourly wages. So, and they only get paid if they're worked. So this is essentially kind of it's an appropriation, but think of it as like a cap. We don't have to spend $50,000 should we either be able to pay for those costs through grant money, or hopefully, best case scenario, we're free of, you know, the demand of this pandemic, and we're in healthier times. But when we put this budget together, we still don't have any new funding. Over the weekend, if you saw the news coming out of Congress, we're in good shape. The Senate still needs to pass the COVID relief bill, but there is a significant amount of funds in there for municipal government. But you know, we have to prioritize public health more so than we ever have in the past. It's clear that that's our number one priority. So that's what we're doing here. We looked at what have we spent over the last well, it was March, I believe. The public health emergency was declared like March 19th last year. So we're almost a year through. And as you guys know, we came to you for a reserve fund transfer at the end of last calendar year because we had spent all of our COVID related grant money. But we spent $310,000 from March to December. A lot of that cost was up front, you know, related to PPE, you know, turning government into remote, you know, improving our remote access or remote capabilities to continue government running. But a significant portion of that has been wages. So we hope that we're going to see more funding, and hopefully, you know, we're able to. Obviously, we would spend the grant money first, but we do feel strongly about supporting our health-related department in this budget, in case, you know, for the needs for specifically because of COVID. Any questions on that?
No. Where should I scroll to next?
It sounded like Bob had a second. I kind of cut him off after he said public health.
No,
I
well,
have
to
a
me,
question.
go ahead.
I have one question. I had heard a rumor that the Lynn Tech Nahant Lynn partnership, which is excellent, might be closed down because of some government wanting, you know, wanting mass sites or something. Whereas I see we should be on the news as an optimum So is that going to happen, and will that affect our budget?
It is not going to happen. I did suffer like a close heart attack when I heard that news. I was so nervous about it. But Lynn is identified as one of 20 critical communities. So we, being partnered with them, we avoid the unfortunate shutdown of other local sites that are not meeting the criteria recently put out by the state.
Yeah, I should have said by the state, but I mean, great. So that's what I wanted to hear, because it would have had a budget impact. But thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome. And thank you for complimenting the site. It is going very well. What was the next thing you wanted to look at?
Oh, so pension benefit, do we know what our unfunded pension liability is?
We do. I don't have it with me. I can get you the number though.
Yeah, there's no huge rush, but I've had like three different people all ask the same question.
You mean as far as like OPEB goes?
Yes.
Yeah. It's in the millions of dollars. Every community has that liability. Not most communities do not have that funded or fully funded. In our communication with Division of Local Services, every year, a $25,000 contribution to OPEB on an annual basis. It gets us. It secures our bond rating as far as how that might negatively or positively impact our bond rating, our contribution to OPEB. It's not so much. It's not a requirement to have it fully funded. Most towns can't afford to do that.
Right. Yeah.
But I can get you the number. It's like I said, it's in the millions of dollars.
Is there still an unfunded vacation accrual? And sick accrual for the unions?
No, unfunded. We have. Are you asking what's our vacation liability? Like how much vacation time is outstanding?
Yeah.
I can get you those numbers too, those specific numbers. We're in pretty good shape. We're in pretty good shape. We've been able to fund that through last year's budget. It's in this budget with expecting retirements. As you guys know, we've had quite a few. So with those retirements comes earned accrued time that's unpaid that gets paid out when you leave.
Does that include sick time?
Sick time, I think it's 20% of unused sick time.
Okay.
Vacation time, our rule in our employee handbook is use or lose. But you have the ability to roll over more, roll over 2 years worth, not 104 weeks. But if you have, let's say, you get 4 weeks in a year, you can, with the approval of the town administrator, roll over up to 8 weeks in that example.
So there's a cap.
There's a cap. Yep. Prior, I think it got a little loose in the past. But like I said, we've been working on tightening that up. We feel pretty comfortable with where we are. It does take a little bit of a hit when we have, you know, some of these retirements of folks who've been with the town for 20, 30 years, but it's, you know, well worth it in the end of the day with the work that we're getting from those employees. So, but we're in good shape. We're not concerned about it, especially with the funding that's included in the budget. John, I think the benefits is right next to, I think it's up, kind of where the treasurer collector.
You think it's up? I thought I would have already passed it. Oh, employee
Oh,
benefits.
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Right, so this year, you know, so these numbers like retirement fund from Essex County, we get that number from Essex County. They give us what that amount, our contribution is to that. So that number comes, it's kind of like an assessment from MWRA or from Lynn Sewer or Swampscott Schools. Unemployment compensation, we level funded that as compared to last year at $25,000. Again, it's something that helps our bond rating to have that funded. Life insurance, health insurance, you know, it is an estimate. You never know what type of employee transition you're going to have in an upcoming fiscal year. So, you know, you can know how much health insurance is costing the town today. But if you have, you know, an employee that's on a single plan, retire or leave, and you replace them with an employee with a family plan, it's a much different impact. So you have to estimate by looking at, you know, what type of retirements may be coming up in the coming year. You know, what type of employment or staffing changes could occur, and you try to estimate as best you can. You want to estimate high, you know, naturally, so that you're covered. We feel comfortable with that number there.
And that insurance number includes all active employees and also retired employees. Is that true?
I think we pay. Let me double check that, John, because obviously OPEB is post-employment benefits. So
Right.
I think once you retire, certain benefits may get paid out of OPEB, certain benefits may get paid out of health insurance. It might be a split. So I'd have to get that info for you.
Okay, thanks.
So are retirees eligible for a town contribution to their health care?
No. It's actually, yes. We don't pay a lot though. And it only occurs if you have more than, I believe, you have to be vested, you know, more than 10 years of municipal government or government service. So, but the other post-employment benefits may be dental or life or other stuff like that.
Okay. The reason I was kind of focusing in on these is that they're both health insurance and retirement are level funded from last year, from 2021.
Yeah, retirement fund and health insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, we get the number from retirement. If you recall last year, back this time last year when we were going to be having town meeting in May, former committee member Ragucci had brought that issue up, and we did some exploration with what the number was from Essex retirement, and we were a little bit high last year. So by level funding it this year, we're still covered. So last year's budget was a little bit above what was necessary, I believe.
All right, so you're comfortable with this one?
Yeah, yep. So we get that number from Essex County. And then health insurance, again, like I said, it's more of an estimate. So we're looking at, okay, how much did we spend last year? What type of retirements do we have coming up? What other changes? You look at like, school teachers, we get some of that information from Tony over at the school. So, you have a sense of when people are starting to age up to retirement, if they're going to be taking advantage of that. So you kind of have to play a guessing game. And, we had plenty last year. As you can see, the actual expenses compared to what we vote in 2020 compared to what we voted in 21. But you have to provide yourself that level of comfort in case you have a lot of people, sometimes it's not retirement. Sometimes it's simply they get offered, a similar job in another municipality. And then when you backfill that position, they come with a family plan instead of a single plan. So you have to account for that. But again, yeah, we're comfortable with this number.
Okay.
Can you scroll down to the debt service?
No, where is it?
It's going to be like transfers out. Before enterprise.
Yeah.
Usually at the very, very end. Oh, that's the enterprise one. Okay. Up.
Right.
Hang on, there we go.
Okay, there.
Yeah.
Between the number that I came up with is we're spending about $1.5 million this year, 1.6 million just in debt and debt service alone. So, and that's in the operating budget. Do we know how much we're borrowing this year? Was the number on the sources was like 800,000?
That's correct.
So additional principal, we're borrowing about 800,000. And I wonder how much principal are we paying down? Do we end up with a net growth or do we end up with a net reduction in debt? Another half of it's interest.
We're not required to make payment on new borrowings in the first year. So
Right.
for instance, a borrowing article that's on the warrant this year, we may not be accounting for the debt service on that in this year's budget. That may come next year's budget.
I think I'm trying to get a sense of, is our debt increasing or are we having a net decrease? If we're borrowing additional 800, and I know we're spending 1.5 or 1.6 million between principal and interest, in my head, I don't remember how much of the principal was being paid off, whether there was a net growth or a net reduction in debt.
Last year, the current fiscal year that we're in, we have no new authorized borrowings other than the sewer debt, which is shifted, right? We didn't include anything last year because of COVID. We really pushed everything out. But we paid down over $1 million in debt last year. So just in this current in the current fiscal year, we're on the positive side of that equation. But I don't think I can answer your question about, whether the new 800,000 that we're proposing for borrowing this year, is unbalancing that.
Yeah, there are books for us at town hall, should we choose to venture there?
Yeah,
The notebooks?
yep,
So, in the past, one of the tabs in that notebook is the debt service schedule.
yes.
That should tell us if, and I don't have it, so I can't directly answer your question other than to point out that there is a tab in those booklet notebooks that details out all of the borrowing.
See if I can find it on my computer. I'm not connected to the network right now, but I might have it in an email.
Do I still have?
Hey, Jeff, the 1.6 in debt service that you came up with, that's obviously outside of the enterprise funds?
Well, both enterprise and government.
It's both.
Government has some debt, so I added the two of them together.
Okay,
So
okay.
what I was trying to figure out, what percent of our actual operating budget
Yeah,
we weren't getting any services from, we're just sort of paying the piper.
yeah,
And I thought it was over 10% of it.
okay.
And I was doing a number saying if for every $1 million worth of principal, we could retire at 6%, you almost end up with a new source of funds that on year, after you pay off $1 million, the year afterward, you end up with a net reduction of like $200,000 in interest. That's a source of funds going forward for the next couple of years, just by having a net reduction in that debt, if you can retire the high cost debt. And I noticed there was some out there at 6%.
You've been reading that book.
Wow. You know where I'm going. Okay.
I know where you're going. Yeah.
So I was looking at that debt exclusion and saying, well, how much would, if you earmarked $1 million to retire 6% debt for 1 year, and you can only take those proceeds and pay down the debt with it, how much would you add to operating income each year? Or how much would you reduce your operating budget by each year going forward, just by reducing that $1 million for 1 year? It's like a $200,000 pickup. But I don't know what it would be for 1 year. Don't tack it on to the property taxes, just make it a one lump sum. Pay it.
How much is the outstanding 6% interest principal?
Well, I was looking at 14 million is about all of the debt, but there must be individual notes, some
Yep.
of which, have balances going forward. And they pay out going forward every year for whatever numbers of years. And if you retired it sooner, then whatever interest is going to be paid in the next 5, 6, 7, or 8 years, that ends up in your pocket to spend someplace else.
The interest rates aren't very high, right? Are they all?
Well, there's some debt on there. I noticed it's 6%, but I didn't get into the. Debt currently is it's cheap money.
Right, I was just thinking because the only thing I know of is the Coast Guard housing interest is low.
Yeah, next year that should be a pickup once you retire that 1 point, but I think that's cheap money too.
That is cheap money.
I'm looking at, what year is this? Fiscal 21's debt schedule, and I bet there's $4.5 or $5 million of 6% debt out there.
Yeah, and if you just paid off 1 million of it, you're paying interest every year for whatever the life is.
Where are you getting the million?
Well, it's a debt exclusion. How much would that add to the average
Oh, well, I thought you were saying don't go for an override.
No, I'm just not an override, just 1 year.
Well,
1 year,
yeah, still
Basic.
it's above the 2.5% though.
right, but then next year it's gone. But you've just picked up $250,000 a year to your operating, expenses that you didn't have before.
Tough sell, I think,
Yeah, I
publicly
know.
for people to, cough up more in property tax to pay off, just, something that they're not seeing and feeling. But, I think that you should, you and Allison and perhaps Peter Frazier from our financial advisors should maybe sit down and have an in-depth conversation about how we structure our debt. So we work closely with them, and they look at all of our debt and kind of put us on a plan. So it's something that we try to. There's a lot of different types of borrowing. There's short-term, long-term, RANs, bands, SANs. There's all different types of terminology and different ways to navigate certain types of debt and payback. And we've always done a pretty good job of being able to pay off more principal each year than we do interest. So, but I think it's a long, very technical conversation that you might be worth spending some time, getting the rundown from them, Jeff.
I would absolutely, I'll make the time. In retirement, I either sit down and I watch old episodes of, well, I don't want to go into what I watch old episodes of, but you get the picture. I'd rather be doing something productive.
It's got to be more, whatever you're watching has to be more entertaining than municipal debt service.
I don't know. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
You can only watch Next Generation so many times.
Okay, so are we okay? Rest of FinCom here?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so we move on to what? Administrative stuff. So I know there's minutes to approve. And we ought to go through and assign the rest of the articles.
Right.
Did you want to do the minutes first or at the end?
Let's just do them.
All right. I have the minutes from February 9th that I would like to have approved.
So moved.
Seconded.
Oldham, aye.
Aye, Beatty.
Vanderslice, aye.
Brown eye. Yes, I don't know.
Charmy, aye.
Who was I?
Zohara, aye.
Dana, I.
Oh, and we're joined by Dana.
Dana, you were absent on the 9th?
Okay, can you update that? I'm here now.
Yep. But you can't, you have to abstain on this vote.
For the minutes?
Yes, because I have you as being absent on the 9th.
Oh, okay, all right. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you. And then we have, go ahead, Barbara.
I took minutes for this February 16th. I've revised them and sent you revised copies. You should have gotten it. John made a very helpful edit for me in which I changed the part that explains how much Nahant has to spend on education funding to mention the convoluted state Chapter 70 funding formula law. So that's in there with no amount just saying that that's what determines it, and that Nahant spends somewhat over, which is what was already there. And Dana, I rewrote the section in which you'd asked the question about contracting, funding, and quality issues with, you were wondering about that. I added that you were wondering about that when you asked the question of Pure and Tazi.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Yeah, that was good. Thank you.
So I think, and Julie has now got them. She's putting them into the well, you have to approve of them. So if you approve them as is, then the superintendent's PowerPoint, which was excellent, will be added to the minutes. And I put that in the minutes that I think we should do that. So somebody needs to say something.
Somebody needs to make a motion.
Yes,
Move to accept the minutes of Barbara Beatty,
for February 16th.
February 16th.
Second, and thank you for taking them.
Thank you. And Vanderslice, aye.
I don't know if I
Holden, aye.
can say aye, but
Brown eye.
Louis, aye.
Zahora, aye.
Ian, aye.
Charmy abstain, I was absent.
Okay. John, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can jump in here and just I can either share my screen, but I can just ask more in general. Did it make sense what I did with respect to the tracking sheet? You know, I basically tried to take last year's version of the articles and plug them into the new 40 that we have in front of us. And then I just kind of carried through whoever had it last year, kept it this year. I mean, that's what I did on paper. So then I guess we just have to discuss, at least for the ones that were either boilerplate template articles or ones that were kind of taken off the warrant last year. Is it okay to distribute people to the same ones? Or does
Sure.
anybody have strong feelings that they want to be somewhere else?
well, it looked like a
No,
good plan.
All
I
right.
thought it was a good plan, and I love that spreadsheet.
Okay.
Terrific.
Let me open. I'm going to try to
Could
open it
you?
up. Go ahead.
Here's Google Documents or
Okay. Yeah. So that's another.
documents or somebody.
So that's the other point. I mean, I think we got approval last year from Tony / the town lawyer that we could have a website, a cloud-based repository of documents where we don't collaborate or deliberate, or I guess we do collaborate, but we don't deliberate, you know, where we basically store documents. So I was kind of going down that road with a Google site, so a Google Drive site. And so on, you know, I thought it would make things easier. But then once I got into it, I realized that if I subdivided the drive into different folders, so let's say if one folder is the town meeting book, one folder is budget documents, one folder is lowlands drainage. I thought it was kind of important to kind of parse the documents into folders to keep it kind of manageable. But once I did that, then I realized I would have to share each one of the folders with everybody. So then it seemed kind of chaotic again. So I kind of evolved to the thought that maybe the way to go is to have that website and then just give everybody the same logon and password. So it would be as if we're all the same person using the same logon codes. And so we could all access it and we could all change it, but we wouldn't be able to track who
Right.
altered or changed it. So
Right.
that would be the caveat there. So I open that up for a little discussion, if that made any sense.
No, that made perfect sense. And I'm absolutely in favor of the concept.
Yep.
Does, is Tony still with us? Does the town have anything, any cloud storage kind of a thing that we could glom onto? Or are we on our own here?
Sorry, I was trying to sign in to gain host privileges of the meeting. I got a background noise that's coming through. I was just trying to figure that out. So you were looking, what was the question for me?
We're talking about setting up some sort of a cloud drive storage place that we can store working documents so that the whole committee could get at them. John's been researching a Google Drive.
Like a
I just
Dropbox
was
or
curious
something.
whether the town had some sort of a structure already in place.
We use, I think Google Docs is what was used in the past by the committee. We use either that or Dropbox.
I think Dropbox would be better.
I don't know Dropbox at all, but how to, okay, let me just, do you guys see my screen, the screen in front of you?
Yes,
So this is
Yep.
what the Google Drive would look like, you
right.
know? So
Yeah, perfect.
it has one view that's each document, and then it has, you know, folders where those documents would live. So if I just, would this work? If I gave everybody the password and the logon? And then we're just careful about naming things or making sure we don't delete things?
You also have to be careful with Google Docs because if you start writing on them, it changes them. Right?
Yeah, so I would argue that what we would be using this for is just to disseminate documents, not to like iterate on
Not to-
documents.
and
if
not
that
to
makes
edit.
sense, right?
Not to edit.
Yeah. Like,
Okay.
does that make sense?
Yeah, because that's really important. It gets very confusing if you've got a lot of people collaborating, editing.
Yeah.
You don't know. Yeah, so I would strongly recommend that we not have collaborative editing.
Yeah.
Unless we decide some way to do that carefully, because then that
Yeah.
can become very confusing.
Yeah, you need to have ground rules if you're gonna do that.
Exactly.
So Judy, your point about Dropbox, would Dropbox enable functionality that we wouldn't have if we did it through this Google Drive type framework?
I'm trying to think if it does anything different. Does it? I think Dropbox has the ability to see who's edited at last, but the goal here is not to edit. If the goal is really just to disseminate information, then this should be perfect.
Okay, so what I'll do,
And there's no way to just give everybody rights to the whole bloody thing?
no, not to the whole drive. I have to give you rights to every folder. That's the
Really?
weird, that's the quirk. And if we had to go that route,
Can you create what's called a VPN, which is a protected? I know I'm part of a VPN for Wellesley.
yeah, I don't,
That's a different beast, Barbara.
yeah.
Oh, okay, fine, forget it.
That's a whole different
Yeah,
beast.
yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'll send everybody what I think is the simplest, most straightforward way to kind of access and to share this type of cloud-based vault. And if we decide that we should do it another way, we'll talk about it next week. How about that?
Perfect.
Okay.
All right.
And,
So-
yeah, if I don't like the idea of everybody having the same login.
No,
okay.
it's
But-
anti-IT security, agreed.
Yeah.
But again, we are not, the goal of this isn't to edit documents. It's strictly as a repository so that we can all see the same things. Is that true?
That is true, but
Okay.
the way that, again, even to enable that through Google Drive, everyone would be used the same logon and the same password, the way I'm proposing. If you're saying you definitely want individual
No.
password protected access, then I'll experiment with just giving everybody permission for every single folder. Or we just have one single, like this is a master folder that would have all the documents in it. They just wouldn't be organized in any way. It would just be anything that we
How many
want.
levels down can this go?
Only
Like-
one. You can go
Oh.
you can go from the drive to a folder, and then you have to give permission to every folder.
Right, but then within that folder, can I have other folders?
No.
Oh, well, that sucks.
Actually, I like the idea, you know what, I like the idea of a master folder.
Okay.
I know that that's not as orderly, but
Right.
I do think it solves that problem.
Okay. So then we'll try that route. I'll put all the documents that I have into this, what you're looking at in front of you now, the master folder, and I'll share that.
So that's not going to be a Google Drive?
It is. It's a folder within this Google Drive. Yes.
Thank
And
you.
will we need a password or something to get into the Google Drive?
To be honest, I don't know. I think what I'm going to do is send you some kind of invitation, and then you'll probably have to log. I'll send you an invitation that's related to your email, and then you're going to have to sign on through your email and make your own password.
Yeah, and then there'll be a little place up on the right-hand top of your screen. Well, I'm in Chrome, where it keeps the little Google,
Yeah,
that's where you get
up
into
here.
it.
Yeah, I would presume that would be how it will work.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay. So
That's
I will share a master folder that everybody can access, and we'll know who's accessing it and what they're changing. All right.
Thank you.
Sure.
thank you very much.
Yep. So now if we go over to the article list, if we keep everybody where they are, we get the first one we get to that hasn't been claimed is, Article 13, that permitting revolving fund. So I don't know if we just people want to yell out, I'll take that, or if basically unassigned means
Which
we need-
one of the docs are we on now?
I am in theory sharing my screen that has the the Excel tracking sheet that I sent everybody. Do you see that?
There's two of them. Is it the JRF articles? for
FY
22?
22 JRF Articles 22821.
Which one? There are two of them.
I can't see the top header of my Excel.
It just says FY 22 JRF Article
Okay, maybe this
22821.
this is essentially the same one that I sent you, maybe with a couple little tweaks. So mine, I have today's or yesterday's date on it, but it's the same spreadsheet. Does that make sense?
All right.
You're not sharing
you-
a spreadsheet
You're not
right
sharing
now.
your screen, John.
I'm not sharing my screen. Oh,
Well, you're sharing your Google. We're
Box.
looking at your Google
oh,
Drive.
okay. Sorry. I thought I was sharing my screen
No,
and you were looking at what I was looking at. Sorry. How about now?
So much easier, so much better. Thanks.
There you go.
yes.
Okay, I was sitting
Perfect.
here looking at this. Sorry, my fault. All right, so now that you can see what I thought you could see, as we go down this list, 1 through 12 are already assigned based on what we did last year. Article 13, which is the permitting revolving fund, that's new. Does anybody want that one? Or
I'll take it. I
we
don't know
can,
what it is.
Yeah, remind me, please, what that is.
Tony, you
It's
want to
an
remind us?
It's an
Sorry.
easy one.
What is it, though?
Uh, So we're allowed to have revolving accounts. Essentially, what this would do is money that comes in a certain fiscal year, such as through the payment for an application to the ZBA, would go into this fund, and then the ZBA can spend out of this account for things like posting in the newspaper, costs of those related costs. The problem is that in your traditional general fund, you have to estimate how much you want to appropriate for the ZBA in a given year, but you could have 100, applications or you could have 20. It's very hard to estimate. So like this year, ZBA has already expended all of their appropriated funds. But if the money coming in essentially flows person wants to apply to ZBA, the cost of that application includes the cost of posting. It goes into this account. It gets paid out of this account.
Well, you're right. That sounds fairly easy to explain. I mean, if you want to put my name on that, that's fine.
All right.
2 T's,
Sorry about that.
no problem.
I'll fix that elsewhere as well. So then we get down to, so I put my, like last year, I had my name on the CPC articles, but I don't know. I think it makes sense to kind of divide those up, given that it's, potentially
So many.
20 articles. So,
Yeah.
I mean, given that we don't know what they are, I would say we don't do anything with that tonight, but maybe once we do know what they are, then we kind of spread them around.
Yeah,
I agree.
I said I would do backup with you on the CPC, I think.
Okay, so we'll
So-
kind of,
John, this is Dana too. Maybe, I'm pretty familiar with the process, having sat on the committee last year. on the
Oh, that's
CPC.
good. That's
So,
good.
maybe you can throw my name on there too.
That makes better sense, seeing as
Okay.
you were on the committee.
okay,
But we would like to see what the articles are.
yeah,
Yeah, and if there's a ton extra, you can assign, yeah.
okay.
Thanks, Dana.
Did you guys start that process last year?
Start which process, sorry?
Putting
Yes.
recommendations together on last year's articles?
Yes.
Yes,
So
Yeah.
you're in a pretty good shape then, because I think that I think those aren't gonna change.
okay, so they're pretty much
There may
what
be
they
new
were last.
ones- There may be new ones coming in. That's the process they're going through now.
Yeah,
I have a quick question. Were we going to put the Coast Guard housing article before the CPC?
Yes.
Yes, that was I did talk to the selectmen about that. They didn't have an issue with it. And I think,
Okay.
so if that's a request from
Yes,
the FinCom,
We did want to
can-
keep them, we want to give some space.
Right.
okay.
So that would mean renumbering those 3.
yeah, we meet on Thursday. So I'll include that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then as far as Article 22, the eminent domain article, I don't know, how do we want to parse that one out? What do we think?
I think that one of the chairs should take it.
Can I ask a quick follow-up?
Sure.
Are you okay if I move something that is, well, I guess what I'm trying to accomplish is trying not to renumber all of the articles. So if I swap Coast Guard housing with a prior article and move that prior article to Coast Guard housing, there's only 2 changes instead of a trickle down.
Yeah,
Is that
that would be
okay?
helpful. That would be helpful.
Okay.
Yes. All right. So to Judy's suggestion, I put both Bob and I on the eminent domain one. Bob, that okay with you if we kind of tag team that one?
Yeah, that's okay with me.
Okay.
This is
All right.
Are we going to
definitely
put a
live-
record, that's is that a citizen petition? That is, right? Are we going, do we have to solve that problem tonight? Are we recommending or not recommending citizen petitions? Can we solve that another
I don't
night?
think are you saying the eminent domain is a citizen's petition? Is that what you're saying?
But right, is that a
No,
citizen's petition?
No, it's not.
No.
Oh, okay, well, then it doesn't matter. All right,
All right. So how about the firearm discharge? Anybody want that one? That was basically pushing the distance from whatever, 200 to 600?
is that a
Right.
citizen's petition?
Yeah,
No. Brown, yeah, you want that, Bill?
yeah.
I think DeWitt is volunteering.
Okay.
He's going to be our firearms expert.
Yeah,
How about,
That will, if you take it, it makes you the master of arms for the finance committee then.
that's good. I'll take that, but
Okay.
I can tell you stories about firearms in the military.
okay.
Okay.
How about the sidewalks? Anybody want that one?
Sure, I'll take it.
Okay.
I'll take all the easy ones.
All right, now we're down to the two marijuana related ones. Anybody have a,
I'll take that.
all right?
Never done, well,
Are we for or against?
if we can tax it.
Right now, so Judy, those in the warrant right now are set up as like placeholders. And I'm working with Dan Script, Town Council, and we're gonna be discussing it Thursday night at the selectmen meeting. The excise tax is fairly simple. It's just strictly whether you wanna, include a local tax on top of any type of marijuana related sales. The second one is somewhat of a zoning related issue that we're still flushing out. It may or may not, it may get removed because it triggers a planning board process before getting to town meeting, and that we may not have enough time. So that may get more simple for you.
But the, all right, thank you. You didn't just let me know what you need, but the, the excise tax, are we selling marijuana in Nahant?
Right now, there are no marijuana establishments in town.
Is it a plan that we will?
The way that the law works is because our town voted in favor of legalizing marijuana when it was on the state ballot, we cannot prohibit it completely. We can limit how many establishments are allowed in town, and then we can do certain things related to zoning, like setbacks, signage, things of that nature. So that we're trying to get ahead of the curve on this before, a proposal comes to the town. But we don't have anything in front of us right now.
So, I mean, I asked that because we can't get a coffee shop, for God's sakes. So, I didn't know what was actually in plan.
I guess it depends on what you're into, I guess.
Well, I'd like to start with morning coffee.
Well, I'm sure there are others that would.
I would not. Yes. Okay. Well,
Or-
yeah,
no,
I'll take
not-
it
not
anyway.
Might like something else with their coffee.
Maybe.
Well, like I said, the town voted in favor of that. So we can limit it to 20% of the amount of liquor store licenses that we offer. So we can essentially limit it down to one, but we cannot prohibit it. So it's more of an effort to get ahead of it. But
Okay.
it's not extremely urgent. It may come off of the second one, at least may come off. Both of them may come off.
All right. So there are no immediate plans in the works.
Correct.
Okay.
And then the only other one that was unassigned, Bob, was the wetlands, but I think you were on that before, so that might have been a typo by me. Do you want to go back?
Yeah,
into that slot?
I'll take that one. I was on the committee, so I can take that one.
Okay.
But
So-
actually, that one's a citizen petition, so I guess
Oh,
that's
okay.
dependent, but still, put my name there.
Okay, all right.
John, was
Yeah.
the senior deferred property tax interest, was that assigned?
I was originally signed that, but I think you had kindly bailed me out and probably actually written it last year. Would you like me to pop you in there, or do you?
Sure. No, that's fine. It shows, I printed out the copy because I do better with paper.
Okay, yeah.
And it said it needs 2021 assignments. so-
Oh, yeah. I think I did tweak that. I caught my typo. So should I put you in there or me in there?
Did you already write something?
Well, so, oh no, you're right. That's the one we still need to talk to the assessor about. So no, I haven't written anything yet.
Okay, I'll take that one.
All right. Okay. So we'll put you there. So then that brings us back to that point of, so the Word document that I sent is either the recommendation statement from last year plugged in or from years past if it was applicable. You know, obviously in the ones where there's figures or numbers, we have to go back in and kind of edit and tweak it. And there's no absolute that says the recommendation statements that are there as placeholders have to be the ones we use again. But I just did it as kind of an exercise to fuel the system, if that makes sense.
It does.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So then I guess we've assigned everything but the CPC articles. I think there was a CPC meeting, maybe, I don't know if it was the first one or it was, there was one on Monday. I didn't actually listen in on that, but I can reach out to Lynn Spencer and find out where they are. Tony, do you have any idea where they are in the process?
They are meeting on Mondays. So
Okay.
I think they're meeting, I don't think they met yesterday, but
Okay.
they have every Monday scheduled for
They
the
met
rest of the month.
yesterday.
Did they?
I believe so.
And
Yeah, I
think
dialed into that
applications are-
meeting. I dialed into the meeting on Monday. They're still taking applications for the CPC grants
Until the
Okay.
12th.
up until March 12th.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did talk to Lynn on Friday, either this past Friday or 2 Fridays ago, and advised her of your schedule,
Mm-hmm.
but one of you may want to reach out to her as well. I told her that you guys need to have your book sent, the final book to the printer on Friday, April 9th. And I'm sure you guys want a couple weeks prior to that. So I think I told her to try to get it to you guys by at minimum the week of the 22nd, their recommendations. But I don't know if that's going to be possible or not. I think you should reach out
Okay.
to the chair.
All right. Okay, so then,
Just for grants, we have them on the agenda for March 16th.
yeah,
So that sounds like it's too early.
I would connect with the chairwoman, Lynn.
so a couple, as long as we're looking at the schedule and who we're talking to, I also, we didn't have the library on. We should I was thinking the library and this assessor were two groups that we haven't scheduled that.
I thought the library was on for next week.
Oh, is that right? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I believe so. It's in with recreation,
Okay,
Yeah.
cultural.
all right, then I was gonna propose it be next week, so.
Okay,
All
good.
right,
That's good because I told Sharon next week.
all
But
right.
you're right, we do need assessors.
So if I talk to Sheila, well, next week is in theory culture and recreation and COVID response. I think we've kind of covered COVID response, haven't we? Or
So can we make it culture and recreation and assessors?
if, that's what I would propose unless anybody has an objection.
The library is under the cultural.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll still keep culture and recreation, including the library, and then just tack on the assessors instead of COVID response. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Tony, there wasn't anything else you wanted to tell us about COVID response, was there?
No, that pretty much covered it. Hopefully we'll have information about potential grant funding from the federal government by then, but I can always update you guys that by email.
Or just whenever we, you're going to be here for other meetings, you can just throw it into kind of the general business as well.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I will reach out to Sheila and see if she can make next week.
And does Sharon know that she's doing library next week?
Yes.
Good. Julie and I met with Sharon, so.
John, did you want any help on that municipal software?
Yeah, that would be great.
Is Sharon asking for any more money?
Yes. She wants another 20.
For what?
Children's
Children's.
librarian.
A children's librarian.
Weren't we forced to give it, weren't we, didn't we provide the children's librarian with money at the town meeting?
No.
We did something with the library at the town
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah, the assistant librarian, she was reclassified. And the money that would have been spent on the children's librarian wound up going to her. So now they still want the 20,000 for a children's librarian. And in the administrator's budget, we're very graciously offered 10. 20 is too much. And we talked to her about that.
But there's also a discussion, so we should wait for next.
Oh,
week.
yeah, absolutely.
But there's also a discussion about possibly sharing that with the school.
The school is open to it. It
And
would
the school
be,
is open to it
yeah.
All
And
right,
then,
well, then we'll have the discussion.
next week, right?
Just that,
Do they keep any transaction metrics that we could get our hands on?
She
I bet
does.
you-
She comes with a, she
How
comes
many
with,
books go in, how many books go out, how many people come in, I don't know, transactions, however they deal with them.
Yeah,
right. It'll be a little different this year, obviously, because of COVID. All the numbers will be down.
listen, guys, I'm not opposed to the
But
library.
they
I
must have it
certainly,
a couple of
I'm
years.
a fan of the library, absolutely.
And
What
we
I'm
made
con-
that clear.
All right, what I'm concerned about is that, you know, budgets.
Mhm,
Our budgets and salaries, there's not the income coming in.
mhm. Yeah, we told her, the 10,000 was great, and we didn't see 20,000 coming, but we didn't want to make any promises or.
She has very good rationale, so we
Mhm.
should hear her.
Oh,
But
I'm
Oh, we'll
not,
definitely hear her next week.
yeah, I'm anxious to
we
hear it. I'm not opposed. I just want you to know where I'm
Right.
coming from, going into it, because her rationale is
Absolutely.
always reasonable. She's got very good, she's a very skilled head librarian.
Mhm.
There's
She
no
is, right.
question about that at all. And it's not that if we
Right.
had money, we wouldn't give it. But every department wants their people to have money.
We
And they all
told her,
have very justifiable reasons. So,
we
I
gave her
mean,
that context. She
okay.
understands.
And she's really adamant on getting a full-time children's librarian, not a part-time. Because we brought that up too.
Did she mention how many children we actually have in Nahant?
One of the metrics I'm talking about.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that was a hot button.
Well, it is. It is a hot button
It
because
is. It is.
It is.
Yep.
we talk salaries and everybody needs them. When we
Mhm.
talk to the fire and police.
Exactly. Yeah.
We mentioned that to her. We
Yep.
mentioned fire and police and, yeah.
I mean, I knew you would. I just
Mhm.
wanted to let you know where I come in pretty biased.
Yep. No, understood. I mean, I would love, there's nothing better for kids than a children's librarian who can understand their level and creativity and needs, but now is not necessarily the right time to be hiring a full-time children's librarian, when we don't even know when the library will be open to allow for children to come in. I mean, they can
Agreed.
come in by appointment with a parent or by themselves, but you can only allow 5 people in the library at a time.
Agreed. All right. Well, thank you very much for that then.
Yep, you're welcome.
We had a very good long meeting, but we were very clear about
Yep.
the context of budgeting this year.
Thank you.
So refresh an old man's memory here. for these articles to do our research and writing, when's the presentation date? 16th? This month?
No, so, I mean, I think the earlier you start on your recommendation, the better, right? So that's a generalization. But I would say that we don't.
The way I wrote out the schedule, it's now called for March 23rd.
23rd, yeah.
We're supposed to have our articles to you?
Well, have a draft of the articles for the committee to review.
Okay,
Yeah, that's a good goal.
that's soon.
Yeah, most of it, I mean, I don't have my spreadsheet up there anymore, but you know,
A lot of them were
A lot
last
of-
year,
a
right?
lot of them were already done or just need to be tweaked with numbers, you
Right,
know?
exactly.
And then there's the ones that are, you know, just kind of so contentious that no one wants to write them to begin with. So, yeah. Yeah.
Well, this eminent domain one,
Yeah.
the scope of, I'm talking in general. Is our responsibility to sit back and give an opinion that says the method that the Board of Selectmen and the town manager have come up with for funding it? Is that the financial, that's the right way of funding it? You know, or is it or is the opinion go beyond the scope? I guess I'm trying to understand the scope of what opinion are we coming up? Because to use CPC, that's a no-brainer. I get tax funds out of it. I get donations. I get state funds out of it. And I'm sure we could probably worm some federal funds out of it if we looked hard enough. But it's a multi-funding platform. So yeah, that's a great way of doing it. Or does the scope of it go beyond that?
I would say that you know, that's part of it. I think, I mean, at least personally, I feel like we have to kind of address that element, right? The pragmatism of the funding. And then we also have to get at, you know, what Bob was working on last year, you know, the high level financial impact of, you know, so we have to somehow weave all those things together. That's what makes it so.
Yeah, and I started it for last town meeting. I'll shoot you a copy of that, John. But I think we need to address exactly what you said, John. So there's one element that is, well, what are the proposed finances of the taking, right? So where is the money coming from and where is the money going to? What is the financial impact of the project itself, should it go forward? Right, and that's the work that we did a while ago, plus the RKG estimate. And we present that absolutely factually without, you know, nuance or anything else. Here are the results, boom, you know. And I think we also have to have a section in there that talks about the risk. And you know, and to the extent we can, and I think we can do it pretty well, is this is a factual presentation. Here it is, you know, this is the situation. If the committee chooses, we could express an opinion on it, or we could just say, look, we've done our best to present the facts and to you townspeople, and it's up to you.
Yeah, I'd like to weigh in on that, Bob, too. I feel like we are fiduciaries on this committee, and it's up to us to examine the major impacts of this eminent domain, which are big. and present them on a factual basis. And I have a sense that, we might have a majority opinion and a minority opinion. That might be expressed how we approach it.
Yeah, and there is precedent on some of these contentious issues where we've said it was not a unanimous decision by the finance committee. The proponents felt this and the opponents felt that. But I do think there are kind of a set of facts that are facts and really not subject to subject to interpretation.
Well,
And in
right.
deciding which facts are facts.
Right. Yeah. There's the rub.
Right.
Do we want to be spending, this is a complicated discussion. And do we want to be having a full discussion on this now? My sense is that,
No, I didn't mean to bring it up to open it up for discussion. I had brain leak.
Logistically, yeah.
yeah, I mean logistically, we
Yeah.
know that it's a complicated, important discussion to have, and we need to have it. And so
Right.
my question is only logistically whether or not.
The way
Not
I wrote
tonight.
the schedule is it
Right,
was
that's
to
what I
be
said.
included
Thank you,
in the discussion of all of the articles, which is March 23rd.
That'll be a long meeting.
That will be a long meeting. And it may end up being 2 meetings. We may end up scheduling a second meeting in the same week. Or maybe we even want to just assumptively do that now.
Probably makes sense.
Yeah,
Yes.
What days of when do the selectmen meet again, Tony? On Wednesdays or Thursdays? Sorry.
It's the first and third Thursday. So we were meeting this week, the 4th, and then we're meeting the 18th.
Okay.
And then we'll be meeting on the 1st of April.
Okay.
So yeah, I think you guys should maybe consider, just keep in mind that April 9th date, and that
Yeah.
we're now into March.
Yeah. So we should at least plan to meet maybe March 25th, 23rd and 25th. So not twice next week, but twice the week after. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Are we ready for public comment, Bob? Is that where we are?
I think that's where we are.
Austin? Or Kathy?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
All right, then I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
second,
All in
Bolton,
favor?
aye.
Beatty, aye.
Vanderslice, aye.
Brown eye.
Army, I.
She and I.
Zohar, I.
All right, then we are adjourned.
Thank you, Tony.
Everybody. Thank you, Tony.
Thank
Tony.
Thank
you.
you.
All right, everybody.
John, do you have the documents that are in the binder electronically? If not,
Some of
I can-
them. Some of them. I do. I have the original version of the warrant, the second version, and then I have the kind of basic Excel budget documents. Yes. I don't have. I haven't picked up my full book yet, so I don't know what else is there. But I don't think I have everything. I have the main documents.
All right, I'm gonna add it to my list to send over the electronic documents that are in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
electronic version of the documents in your binder,
And
and
then
then maybe you can throw it in the Google Drive that you're
Yep.
putting together.
yeah, that makes sense.
I haven't picked up my binder. We're at the back door.
Right in the selectman's office, when you walk in the front door to the left, when you walk
The
up
front
the,
door open now,
on Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Monday, Wednesday. Okay, good.
But we will, but, you know, just let me know if you need to come on a Tuesday, Thursday, I can run it out to you too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
So
guys.
much.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye, good night.
I don't.